mid-meeting when I have a coughing fit.
The principal should brought me coffee the way I like it. She thought I'd want it.
Should I read this out loud? Let's do the whole board.
You could.
Because we
You
have
have
public
that's-
comment?
We have
Well, no, I'm sorry.
would be like
Public,
under
yeah.
You absolutely can.
Okay. Shane.
I'm checking the live stream, that's what I'm
Okay.
doing. Town of Manchester. Nope, where's Allison?
Allison.
Board of Ed, March 5. Unless it's spring.
Chair down.
Georgia might be late.
See, because then if I don't, we just need to make sure that everybody's like really into their mics.
You're gonna be one short.
Hopefully. Demand it.
What's that? I don't think so.
Hey,
I have it on
are you
good
kidding me,
word.
Nancy?
Watching it.
You carry
They
batteries?
can definitely hear me anyway, so.
Probably pretty accurate.
Project well.
That's probably pretty clear. I hear something.
Yeah, it's working. See, I just punched a bunch of buttons. And I can send these. That might have been because live stream. Yes. My way to start the live stream.
Allison's coming in now.
All the scenarios and then
Do we have another chair?
Need another chair and then another packet down this way.
Oh, Allison. So
Somebody said she's coming, right?
Yeah,
On the
she's
way?
walking in.
We hope so.
I'll be able to put it on TV when we're ready for that part. I'm gonna
Thank you.
probably just go right to the scenarios and not get time talking about the other two things.
Okay,
They're
okay.
informative for the board, but not.
Come on, Allison, we'll get it started. Okay, everyone, it's 6 o'clock. I'm going to call to order the Special Board of Education meeting March 5th, 6 PM. If you would mind, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, everyone. We'll start with roll call. Kurt?
Kurt Warner?
John Moore?
Jeanette Broder. Sandra Stubar.
Nora McCarsky?
Julie Luby.
Tori LaVetri.
Renee Waldron?
Shane Centrella?
Just on a matter of housekeeping, if you all continue to lean into the mics, that would be great. Anybody that wishes to speak for the public, we do have a microphone that does work, but it's light, so don't eat it, but please lean into it if you wouldn't mind. Okay, item 2, approval of the agenda. Anything to add to the agenda or change? Okay, my apologies, we're all set. We've got Allison, should be coming in, by the way. She should be coming. Okay, public comment. According to the Board of Ed policy, we do allow public comment twice on the board agenda. If you'd like to speak, please put your name, email address on the page that's right in front of us on the table. And you will be called up in the order in which you've written your name and address. When you do come up to speak, please just tell us who your name is, your town address, and you have 3 minutes to speak. It is not the policy of the board to respond and dialogue with you during the public comment or thereafter. However, we would direct the superintendent of schools to respond to the issue at an appropriate time and manner. Does anybody wish to speak this afternoon? Okay, please come on up.
would you like me to start, or shall we wait?
No, go ahead, Barb.
Good evening, board members. Barbara Silverio, 219 Walnut Street, Winstead, lifelong resident and principal of Pearson School. I'm writing to express my strong belief that the proposed budget is the right budget for our students. Supporting this budget will allow our schools to continue providing the best possible education to our students. While it is understandable that the budget cuts are being explored, it is essential that we do not compromise the quality of the educational experience for our children in an effort to make short-term financial adjustments. The proposed cuts have already led to a sense of uncertainty and instability among our teachers. Some staff members have expressed concerns about the security of their positions, while others have even requested letters of reference as they actively pursue opportunities outside our district. As we are all aware, neighboring districts are currently recruiting, which only adds to the pressure that our teachers are feeling. I hope the Board of Education administrators and teachers can work as a team to ensure we can continue to provide the best education for our students while also being responsible stewards of taxpayers' dollars. While I understand that the board is seeking fiscal responsibility, these proposed reductions are causing significant anxiety among our staff and may have long-lasting negative effects on the quality of education in our district. The prospect of staff reductions, particularly among tenured teachers, is alarming. Tenured educators have dedicated years of their lives to mastering their craft, engaging in professional development, and contributing to the positive culture of our schools. The loss of these experienced professionals would not only disrupt the learning environment, but would also create a significant setback in terms of rebuilding and retraining new staff. It is important to remember that it takes years for a teacher to reach the level of proficiency that tenured educators have attained. The cost of losing these educators far outweighs any potential short-term savings. Furthermore, the emotional and professional toll this uncertainty is taking on our staff is difficult to measure. Morale has been impacted, and there is growing concern among our team members about the future of their careers within the district. This has created an atmosphere of panic and distraction that is counterproductive to the mission of providing the best possible education to our students. I strongly urge the board to consider the long-term consequences of these proposed budget cuts. The stability of our teaching staff, the morale of our educators, and the overall quality of education of our students is at risk. As a principal, I'm committed to providing the best support for our students, but that can only be accomplished when our staff feel secure and valued. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. I look forward to working together to find a solution that ensures the continued success of our district and the well-being of both our students and our staff. Thank you, board members.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Who's next on the list?
Have you signed in there? I have. Okay, great. Thank you.
My name's Alyssa Maluzzo. I'm a 6th grade teacher, and I'll be reading a letter from Denise McLaughlin, the president of the Winchester Education Association. Thank you for your dedication and hard work in helping to provide an impactful education to the students of Winchester. I've been a proud teacher in the district for 26 years and know that whether a teacher is a veteran of the district or a recent hire, they strive for excellence daily. There's not a teacher in our district who leaves at the end of the day and doesn't continue working in the evenings and over the weekend. We are dedicated and truly committed to the children of Winchester and helping them reach their full potential. Also, as a serving Board of Education member myself, I understand that sometimes outside fiscal pressures can make it hard to stay focused on your mission, which is the education of our students. I would like to share the union's perspective on the current budget. I've reviewed the proposed budget and feel that it is truly a functional and respectful budget. The proposed increases are economy-driven. The fact that it costs more to do exactly what we are currently doing shouldn't affect the students in their education. Winchester needs to be able to keep up with the cost of living increases and not continually reduce the amount of services for students. Historically, the teachers of Winchester have been underpaid. We have had step freezes and taken 0%. Winchester's minimum base salary for a teacher hired with a bachelor's degree is $44,147. This is 172nd out of 175 districts, making it in the bottom 2% statewide. The median starting salary for the state is $50,853. The salary increases to the teacher contract over the next 3 years are lower than the state average and not a significant budget driver. The drastic cuts being proposed will also have an impact on students because we will lose good educators. Some will be cut due to the budget reduction. Many will leave whether or not they are cut because they do not feel supported due to the reductions proposed by the board. In today's educational world, an educator needs all of the supports provided to help educate the whole child. All of our children come to school with different needs. We're lucky enough to have a superintendent, principals, assistant principals, social workers, special education teachers, nurses, paraprofessionals, interventionists, and behavior techs to support our children. We couldn't do our jobs without these individuals. This year, my classroom is full of 18 active and engaged students. The difference in their academic levels and readiness to access the curriculum is vast and unique. Many of them have individual plans that I implement so that all of my students can meet with success. Some of these students also receive intervention as a pull-out or push-in model to help meet their needs. Students and adults are continually coming and going throughout the day. My classroom is a whirlwind of activity at all times. I've given you a very minimal description of what the average classroom looks like, and I ask you to think about what that would look like with a third more students and no other adults to meet the needs of those students. Increased class sizes would mean less individual support, as teachers would have to do more with less. It will put a strain on educators, reducing our efficacy. As a Board of Education and a teachers union, we should be working hand in hand to value and prioritize education for our Winchester families. The decisions you make will impact each grade level and its ability to educate children. Increased class sizes are detrimental to education, and cuts to support staff will also have a long-term effect on the achievement gap. Please consider putting forward a fully funded budget with no cuts. Respectfully, Denise McLaughlin, WA President, 5th grade teacher.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Hi, Teresa Payton, 124 Meadow Street. Some of what I had written down, Alyssa and Denise covered graciously in relation to comments that were made at separate board meetings regarding staff and pay increases. But one thing I wanted to note was, because I'm always someone who likes to deal in facts, that there are some facts about our staff that are very important. We have approximately 160 staff members. 40% of those staff members are residents of the town of Winchester, tax-paying residents. There are 11 certified classroom teachers who choose to live and work in this town. 2 of our administrators, as you know, Mrs. Silverio and Julie, is also a resident of Winston. 3 special education teachers. In our school district, we have 5 custodians. 4 of them are homeowning taxpayers in Winston. 3 of 3 executive secretaries. 6 of our 8 kitchen staff, 23 of our 31 paraprofessionals live in this town. 1 maintenance director, 1 of 2 school nurses, 3 of 4 interventionists, 5 of 7 central office employees. Both staff members of the Family Resource Center and a handful of others doing various tasks in the community. Represents over 40% of the staff of Winchester Public Schools. I find this fact to be important because when we talk about the mill rate, the tax increase, the budget, we're failing to mention that a large number of our employees live in this town. They are the taxpayers. When we talk about pay increases and how we don't want mill rates to go up because that could drive people out of their homes, please don't forget that 40% of our employees are those exact people you're looking to protect. The risk of losing their job would certainly be much more detrimental to them being able to pay their bills, money that is funded back into this town. I would stand to argue that the remaining people in this town directly contribute, in our school district, also directly contribute to the economy of this town. This is where you buy your gas and your food, where teachers visit local businesses. So we are not just people who this town has to support because of pay increases or jobs. We are people who are contributing to this economy. One of the biggest numbers that sticks out to me is the paraeducators and interventionists. As I'm sure we imagine, these are people that fall lower on salary scales living in this town who are also most vulnerable to cuts. I'm sure when Julie presents you with what $600,000 or $900,000 worth of cuts would look like, you're going to see reductions in those line items. This does not benefit this town if these people cannot put food on their table and support their families. Alyssa had great statistics about the median salaries for teachers in Connecticut. and starting rates and being 172nd out of 175 district. It's not a point of pride. It's not something that I think anybody in this room is going to use in their elevator speech when they explain to people why they want to live and work in this town. All kids, regardless of whether they come from an affluent community, a blue-collar community, or a mix of both, deserve to have the very best. The budget that Julie is putting forward ensures that our kids are getting exactly what they need. No more. They will not be experiencing any grand programs or services through this budget. This will be a basic, bare needs, necessities. Therefore, I would strongly encourage you not to make draconian cuts tonight when we all know historically that when these budgets reach the Board of Selectmen, more cuts are always required of us. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Hi, Christine Rylander, 46 East Mountain Avenue. So I am a parent. My son Ricky is in first grade at Hinsdale. My daughter Cecilia is in third grade at Pearson. The cuts that were proposed to the superintendent's budgets, it was worded that it is unfortunate that we will be losing staff. In your eyes, it might just be unfortunate. To the children in these buildings, that will be devastating. Our children deserve a good education. I understand that we're worried about mill rates, but your job is to ensure that the schools are funded in a way that they can provide an education for our children. If you are so worried about the mill rate, I feel like you are on the wrong board. Your goal here is to ensure that our children are getting a proper education. It's really difficult for me to also hear that you love our children while you're proposing cuts that will jeopardize their future success. I would like you to please keep in mind when you listen to the cuts that will be coming from the superintendent, how this will impact the children in those buildings. And we also need to remember that we're so worried about mill rates increasing. One of the best ways to give our town more tax income is by increasing the home values in our town. By having a good school system in our town, our home values will go up, and that will reduce the need for future mill rate cuts. So please, again, remember that your job here on this board is for our schools and for our children, and though you may view it as an unfortunate loss, it would be a devastating loss to our children to pull classroom teachers out of their buildings. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Good evening. My name is Joy Hubbard. I am an employee of the Winchester Police Department. I'm not here representing them. I am the president of the United Public Service Employees Union, our local 330. I'm the union president of the Winchester Police Department. I'm here to talk about fiscal responsibility and some decisions that are being proposed with the budget for the school. I do want to say that I am a parent of 2 students in this school district. One goes to Pearson, one goes to Hinsdale. And I have seen with my own eyes the magic that the educators create in both schools. Specifically the pre-K4 program. I think that you have an exceptional staff that goes above and beyond for students, beyond their capacity as educators, and treat them like they're their own children. And I'm increasingly concerned about some of the cuts that are going to be suggested tonight by the board, specifically for both schools. But I'm here representing the United Public Service Employees Union in relation to the thought of hiring armed security officers. I know that the goal of the Board of Education is to improve the school climate and safety of the students. And I know that, there's $72,400+ budgeted for the school year to have armed security officers join the school system. What I will say is that it is increasingly concerning that our police department is still understaffed, and that our chief of police is continuously asking for more positions. Specifically, in the last budget hearing, he asked for 2 positions which were eliminated. And now we're coming into budget season again, and I'm not sure what his ask is. But I do know, and with the union, everyone's quite concerned that the school system doesn't want to fund an SRO. And what I will say is that I'm not asking specifically for that position. I'm urging the board to renew these discussions before making a decision. I'm reading a lot of comments from the individuals in the town on social media forums, and the comments are more or less like, well, this is what we can afford right now. What I will say for fiscal responsibility purpose, if we're asking for additional funding for police officers, that opens up a breadth of functionality that the police department can provide to schools. And I caution the board to consider an armed security officer who wouldn't even be an employee of the town. It would be a separate entity that it would be represented by with their blue card. They don't have the same training as a school resource officer. They don't get the same training in use of force, juvenile law, diversion, de-escalation. They are just standard background check, no felony convictions. They have to have a qualification with a firearm, drug testing, good moral character through your background services. They can't offer all the things like, community policing, which Obama's 21st Century Task Force of Policing basically said that is the pillar of social trust with the police department. They can't offer after-school activities. They can't help you direct traffic. And in fact, all they can do is dial 911 and wait for the real heroes to come. I strongly, strongly wish the board would renew their discussions and consider going into either partially funding a position for an officer that will know your children and care about your children, than to fund a position that is a temporary fix that will be replaced down the line. I don't think we can fiscally afford to continue to keep doing these things. And I think an armed security officer, while it serves 2 schools, if you had a police officer that would be able to be in the schools.
If you could summarize, it'd be great.
Yep, it would serve both the town and the school, not just one. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak? If you wouldn't mind to sign in here on the table? Sure, I was a little late. Anybody else wishing to speak, you can come on in over here at the table and put your name down, your email address. This way here, if there's any request, we can have Dr. Luby reach out to you and respond. Yes, you can. If you wouldn't mind speaking into that mic, that'd be great. It's sort of weak.
No problem.
Okay.
Although I'm a music teacher, so I can project, don't you?
Okay.
Dear board members, my name is, by the way, Liz Reyes, at 206 Gilbert Ave, if you need that info. I stand before you tonight, or sit, not only as a teacher, but as a native of Winsted, a proud resident, and a parent. I want to begin by saying that growing up here, I wasn't always proud of our schools, nor of our town. We didn't have the latest technology, nor the newest textbooks, but what we did have were great teachers. These were the people who worked tirelessly, day in and day out, to ensure my education, and they were the reason I looked forward to going to school every day. Now, I have the privilege of working alongside those same people today, and they are the kindest and most dedicated colleagues, people who would, at the drop of a hat, will do anything to help their students succeed. Having worked in other districts, I can tell you that this level of commitment is not always the case. And what you have here in Winsted is a community of truly exceptional teachers, and I'm not sure you realize how rare that is. But today I come with warning. If cuts are made to the budget, we risk losing these incredible educators. Even if those cuts don't directly affect them, they may impact the student-to-teacher ratios. Rising class sizes mean we can no longer provide the level of individual attention our students need and deserve. Have you ever been in a classroom with 23 3-year-olds? How about 26 5-year-olds? Imagine trying to keep them seated, let alone focused enough to learn how to read, write, and understand, and just be a person. What our teachers do every day is nothing short of magic, and I cannot overstate that enough. But they need our support. We can help by maintaining lower class sizes and ensuring there are adequate resources, such as teachers' assistants. We can give our students the chance they deserve by providing vital interventions in math, reading, and writing, as well as additional help from paraprofessionals. I understand it may seem like we're asking for a lot, but I urge you to remember that the education of our children is the most valuable gift we can give them. Our children are the leaders of tomorrow, no matter where they come from, even a small town like Winstead. And they deserve every opportunity to succeed. And that begins with us, and it begins with our schools. As we look to the future, we don't know what changes may come for the Department of Education, so now is not the time to hold back on the resources that we need. If concerns about the budget are on your mind, I encourage you to look to the town budget as I have, and consider if there are other areas or cuts that can be made, areas that won't impact our most vulnerable group, our students. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak? It's okay, thank you.
I didn't plan on saying anything today, but J. Markwell, 60 Overlook Road. Been here 26 years. We've had 4 children go through the school system, 4 of our own, and now 3 grandchildren. The 4th not yet. I just want to reinforce what everybody just said behind me. Please listen to them. I just want you to listen to them. If nothing else, what they said is spot on. With no disrespect to anything that they do, I'm sure they would want more, not less. What are you going to take away from the children? You don't want to take away from the children. I know this is a hard position. I would never do what you do, believe me. I would never want to do what you do. But please think hard. And I guess I've always been a problem solver. So I guess all I ask is for finding different ways to do things if it's possible. You know, instead of just saying, oh, gotta cut that, think of a different way to do it. Be a little creative. And I can't speak to what Joy was explaining because I actually missed half of it. I apologize. But if it means more safety for our children, please do that too. I have dear friends, children who were in Newtown. So every time we talk about an SRO, or I forget the other initials, I apologize, it sends chills through me. They hid in a closet. They survived. Okay, I was supposed to be down there working with Red Cross, and something kept me from going down there, and I'm very thankful for that. So I don't mean to go off, but please just listen to what she is saying. That's it. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to item 4, communications, community input received by the Board of Education members. I do have a letter that I'd like to read into the record that was received by the Board of Education March 5th, today at 11 o'clock in the morning. Dear board members of the Winchester Public Schools Board of Education, we hope this message finds you well. We are Megan Palmer, Casey Demiria, and Caitlin Layden, and we make up the preschool, special education, general education team at Hinsdale. We're writing to share some concerns regarding the funding for early child education, particularly as the budget for the upcoming school year is being developed. As preschool teachers, we are dedicated to providing the best possible education to our youngest learners. However, we're currently facing significant challenges due to the lack of funding for essential resources. In addition, many of the materials we need, like books, art supplies, educational tools, are being purchased out of pocket by teachers. This situation is unsustainable for both the staff and students, and it's making it harder to meet the diverse needs of our learners. It is important to recognize that the lack of adequate funding directly impacts our students' learning experiences. While we strive to provide the best education possible, the absence of necessary resources affects the quality of instruction we can offer. Students are the ones who ultimately suffer when essential materials are scarce, as it limits their opportunities for growth and learning. The restricted budget and insufficient supplies hinder our ability to tailor lessons to the individual needs of each child, which is crucial at such a formative stage in their education. Our students should not have to bear the consequences of underfunding, and we believe that by addressing this issue, we can ensure that every child receives the full potential of their educational experience. With this in mind, we're hopeful that the board will consider increasing the funding for our district within the upcoming budget. Adequate funding would provide the support necessary for our students to succeed, enhance the resources available for teachers, and ensure that every child receives individualized attention that they need to thrive. We firmly believe that investing in early childhood education is an investment in the future of our entire community. By providing the right resources and support, we can make a lasting positive impact on our students' lives and set them up for success. Thank you so much for your time and consideration. We are grateful for the time you've taken to consider our concerns and for all the work you continue to do for our district. Warm regards, the preschool team of Hinsdale School. Does anybody else have anything from the community? Okay. Seeing none, we're going to move into item 5, which is the action item. Yep, I just want to roll into that. The action item on the review, questions and answers, and the deliberation of the superintendent's proposed budget and fiscal year. To start off, I'd just like to add a couple of words to set the tenor, if you will, for today. Today, obviously, is a very important day for our community. I don't have to tell people on the board that it's been a long time, about since 2015, moving this district out of receivership through the steady hand of the previous board chair, Doug Feniger, with the aid and support of the state of Connecticut and the guidance that we've received from receivers from the state of Connecticut. As you well know, we're facing a situation that is very difficult financially as aids and support has been dwindled down for the current proposed budget in terms of fiscal support from the state of Connecticut and other resources and resource areas. But I also know I sit with colleagues here that are very deliberate, very intentional, and very much in understanding the importance of education for kids. They know that we're here for a Board of Ed, we're not a Board of Finance, that we're not here necessarily to look at the end game. We have to put the ball in the court. That's our job here, and the ball that we have to shape and form tonight is a ball that we know will service all the needs of our kids. It is not an easy job. I don't envy you, Julie, the work that you've been doing and the position that you are in today, especially as a new superintendent, not only a new superintendent, but a new superintendent to the Winchester Board of Ed. It is really good to hear the community come out and speak tonight. In my tenure on this board, I have not seen so much support at a public meeting during a budget process as I've seen this evening, and I think that speaks well to our community, to our teachers, to where our heart is. And I want you to know that the Board of Ed members here share that same heart and that certain fortitude. And we do have to sit together today, and we have to hammer this out. Having said that, we also do know that we need to bring together a fiscally responsible budget, yes, but we also need our parents to come out and support this budget. That is very important. We faced 3 referenda last year, 3 referenda too late. We need to do this straight up front with the first referendum right away so that our community can continue to move forward. We have 1,000 parents between 2 school systems. Those parents should and need to come out to support and send that message. It is a great start tonight to start hearing from people that are supportive of our kids, because in the end, it indeed affects all of our kids. With that said, does anybody else would like to share any comments?
Yep, I would. Some of the things that Nora said, I'm going to reiterate. It is nice to see everybody here. And we understand, obviously, that this is an emotional thing because it is involving kids, right? And none of us take this job lightly. Yes, we run for election, but we're volunteers. We don't get paid. We don't get a stipend. Why would we do this? Because we care about kids and education, especially in this town we all live in. There's 3 teachers on this board, Renee, Nora, myself. We have parents who are on this board with children in this district. Several people have mentioned about cutting teachers, and in this exercise of looking at what budget cuts would look like, we wanted to see so that we knew for facts what any type of cut would do to our educational system. It wasn't to instill fear. It certainly wasn't to make you think that we're willy-nilly. Somebody mentioned, that we're callously going to be cutting teachers, and that was inflammatory. That's not true. We're looking at this to not cut teachers. But the reality is, we live in a town that is struggling. You know, just on Facebook, they're doing a fundraiser at the VFW for a veteran who can't afford his home repairs or his car repairs. That's the reality of our town. This increase is caused by a lot of things that are not in our control. Insurance, if we want to be mad, we're being raked over the coals by the insurance increases. Transportation cost increases that we can do nothing about. We have an unwillingness by the governor to properly fund our special ed, which is a huge driver in our budget. So those are the things to be upset about. The thing that we've talked about, you know, is this 1.7 increase. It doesn't fund anything new. This is just to keep the machine moving. We don't have a tag program. We don't have a drone program. You know, so we are frustrated with it too. The education budget is the driver in our town, of our town budget. As Nora said, last year, with just a mill increase, not even a full mill increase, we had to go to referendum 3 times. What we're trying to avoid is that by passing on a responsible budget. In a perfect world, we want to fund everything. We want new Chromebooks, new smart boards. We want a drone program. We want a tag program. You know, all these things that are necessary to have a functioning, you know, but also too, we've also supported the iReady program. So it's not that we're not for funding and supporting these programs, but we're a little bit between a rock and a hard place. And Nora's right, we need parental support. I understand that we can't just look at a mill rate increase, right? Because again, this is kids we're dealing with. But we also have to be fiduciarily responsible, not only to the schools, but to the taxpayers. So with that said, we ask for your patience. We're trying to do the best that we can. Joy, we did talk a lot about the SRO and the necessary need for that. So that's still under discussion because we understand what an SRO versus an ASO. And we just ask for your patience because we are trying to do our best. Thank you.
Anybody else from the board wishing to speak? Allison?
Thank you. Yes, I agree with both Nora and Sandra, as well as just wanting to make it known that there was in no way an insinuation on any of the board members' parts to insinuate that teachers and or other staff don't work hard, don't work late hours, don't go above and beyond. So I don't know how that kind of developed, but regardless, that was not the intention of this. And this was an exercise. This was an exercise for the town to really see where we are with our budget and the realities of our budget as a real world budget and how it will affect us, all of us, as citizens of the town. And that's the work we're going to be doing tonight. And I reiterate again Nora's point, this is by far the largest crowd I think we've ever had here. And it's impressive, and it's a wonderful addition, and I hope it continues. And tonight we are going to be adopting something to push forward, and we're not going to stop. And we all do want to fight for the entire education system in this town. And you know, like Sandra said, please give us patience tonight as we work through these conversations.
What I would suggest moving forward as a board is that we have just a conversation, not necessarily move for a motion right away. I think it's important that Julie walk us through the exercise, so that way we get better grounded, at least in terms of a discussion, so that we know what direction a motion should go. Okay? Julie?
Thank you, Nora. I'm going to steal the spotlight for 2 seconds and go totally off topic and just ask everyone to join me in welcoming back Rosie Fields, our Hinsdale principal. Rosie is back this week, and taking the opportunity to learn all she can about everything that went on while she was gone, and will take the helm again on Monday as the principal. And we are thrilled to have her back. And hand in hand with that, I'd like to say a special thank you to Ms. St. Hilaire, who has been a phenomenal acting principal. We couldn't be more grateful. So I apologize, but I couldn't not take that opportunity. And I just want to begin by saying, in listening to the speakers tonight, I'm just so struck by hearing it in other voices and reflecting what I've seen with my own eyes, how proud I am of our staff. I'm proud of the staff that came out to speak or to listen tonight. I'm proud of what our speakers said about our staff, but we are a very lucky community here in that we do have incredibly dedicated educators and support staff who are devoted to our students. And while I would wish that the original budget that I proposed were going to go through, no matter what happens, I know that the staff that remains will show up for our kids. And I hope that we can fight like crazy to keep the people and keep the support staff and put tools in teachers' hands to do the job right. But I have so much confidence in our staff, and I'm just so proud to be leading a group who is so dedicated. And I also want to say I'm very inspired by the turnout of parents, grandparents, and community members. Whether we all agree or disagree isn't even the point, but the fact that people are paying attention and engaged is really exciting, and my door is open, and I would welcome anyone who has questions or needs information, whether it's about the budget or any subject. Please keep talking to us, because we're better when we work together. So at our last meeting, the board asked to see what it would look like if we took the proposed increase and reduced it by 30% and 50%. So this evening I have a few things to show you. I'll just begin simply with my proposal from the last meeting, which was me negotiating against myself, so to say, which I'm loath to do, but I also wanted at least to show up with what I thought we could do. And so the slide that is in front of you is reflects a 7.18% increase over the previous year, and I had suggested that we remove the initiative to add cafeteria monitors. Their role was to allow interventionists to provide intervention throughout the whole day rather than pause to supervise the lunchroom, and to remove the SSOs, the cost of the SSOs from the budget, in hopes that we might find another way to fund that as the process wore on. And of course, to take out the reduction that was a result of the Gilbert's actual number compared to what they anticipated. So we'll put that aside, and let's take a look at what a 30% reduction of the increase would look like. Mathematically, what the board was asking for then in that scenario was $538,320. And what I do want to point out about this, as well as the other scenarios, is that they are scenarios, and they are meant to illustrate magnitude, but they do not reflect a commitment, if you will. If you come back at the end of the night, board, and say we need a reduction of X hundreds of thousands of dollars, it will look similar to what you see here, but I will work with the evolving information that we have about kindergarten numbers, and continue to talk to the team, see where we might have vacancies that we can use as efficiencies rather than fill one position while laying off another position. So these are illustrations, but not spot on. But they do add up, I will tell you, exactly to the dollars, which will explain why, for example, the dues reduction fluctuates in the different scenarios. It actually goes down as it gets bigger, just because that line is $18,000. So if I needed $500 to make the numbers match, that cut is sort of arbitrary. So at 30%, to get to $538,000, we would remove the cafeteria monitors, remove the SSOs, we would need to remove one secretary. Those are staff that are non-instructional. In the category of instructional staff, 1 paraeducator, 1 interventionist, 1 speech and language pathology assistant, a 0.2 reduction to our EL teacher. Last year, a 0.2 reduction was taken to the EL teacher, so that position is currently 0.8. It would go down to 0.6, which is 3 days a week. 2 classroom teachers, grade levels would be figured out later. What I know for certain is in grades 2, 3, and 4, there's no way to remove a teacher. One of those is the grade with 105 students. You can't break that down into that number of sections. None of these would be ideal, but between pre-K, K, 1, 5, and 6, 2 teachers would have to be eliminated. And then for things that are not on the human front, of course, the Gilbert reduction, we would take, currently in the budget, there are 40 Chromebook replacements. Our ideal would have been to do 1 grade level a year, which is 80 Chromebooks a year. At 20, this is a function of survival, just getting rid of the ones that are truly broken, and having devices in kids' hands. This is not staying ahead of the technology curve at all. We have $22,000 in the budget for field experiences. Part of that is admissions prices or ticket prices, and part of it is for transportation. To make this work, we would cut that in half and take $12,000 out of supplies and $6,400 out of the $18,000 professional dues. I think the impact of these is largely self-evident, but we'll just pause a minute. And actually, you don't need to put the screen. You can leave that there. I'll just speak to it a little bit. Obviously, there would be no SSOs. The special education students would have a little less support with 1 less paraeducator. With 1 less interventionist, that would be less intervention that we're able to offer hand in hand with not adding the cafeteria monitors. Speech services would have to be cut back to what is required in IEPs and not anything beyond that. ELs would be seen less times per week. Class sizes at 2 grade levels would be bigger by, let's see, if you have 4 classes and you get rid of 1, so you're splitting a third of that class. So your classes would be 1/3 bigger in 2 grades. Sorry, I didn't have that at my fingertips. The field experiences obviously would be less. We'll have less supplies and less ability for the teachers and administrators to participate in their professional organizations that allow them to stay current and supported in their work.
Nancy, could you speak into the microphone?
So for each student that is over the class size per the teacher's contract, it's approximately $4,500 a year.
I'm thinking maybe I'll go through all of the scenarios and then take questions, since some questions would probably apply in both. So why don't we bump ahead to the 50% reduction to the increase? So again, mathematically, you asked for a 50% increase scenario. That's $897,200. To get to that number, we would remove cafeteria monitors, the SSOs, the secretary. Under instructional staff, it's largely the same positions in greater quantities. 2 paraeducators, 3 of the 7 interventionists, 1 of the 3 speech and language pathology assistants, the 0.2 reduction to EL. Instead of 2 classroom teachers, you're now at 4 classroom teachers. We have 3 instructional coaches whose primary role is to ensure instructional fidelity throughout the district and grow the skills of our often young teaching staff. We would remove 2 positions and replace that with 1 person who could go across both literacy and mathematics. And then under non-personnel, we would, in addition to the things discussed before, replace only 20 Chromebooks, not have backups if any smart boards break, we wouldn't have a budget to replace them. We would have no money in the field experiences line. Continue to reduce the supplies by 12,000, the dues by 5,200. And to make it work, we would charge tuition for all preschool students other than those attending on with an IEP. And that rate would be $200 a month for full day, $100 a month for half day.
Okay.
In addition, I forgot, in addition to the scenarios that you suggested, after speaking with many of you in the time between last meeting and this meeting and trying to sort of listen through what was in your heart and minds, I offered, because again, I imagine at some point you will make a motion to put forward a budget at a set amount and might reach that by proposing a dollar amount reduction to the original proposal. And so I offer you something that is less than your 30% exercise, but more than what's before. I can't say to you that I'm recommending this. I'm gonna stick with my story that I'm recommending that 182. That I can do in good conscience. We have different roles. As your superintendent, it's my job to tell you what we need to do our jobs. But based on what you've said, I also bring you this $300,000 reduction, which is built off of the 30%. So, but it returns the SSOs and the classroom teachers and the field experiences for students, and represents a 6.7% increase over last year's budget.
So in terms of dollars and numbers and so forth, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. Our increase ask is $1,751,800. Am I on the same page with everybody?
Yes.
And then the Julie cut is 182,420, pushing back the ask to 1.5 million, 1.569,380. That's the Julie cut. Okay? The 30%.
With the cut of 182.
182, exactly, with the cut of 182. So $1,751,800 minus 182 is 1.5. I'll just round it. Okay? The 30% reduction, which would be 538,000, would bring the ask down to 1.2 million.
Or 5.6%.
That's correct. The 50% reduction would bring the ask down to $854,000. And then Julie's $30,000 cut, actual just dollars.
300.
Oh, sorry, 300,000. Sorry, my apologies. Would bring the ask to 1.4 million. Just to give you a sense of dollars,
Or 6.7%.
or 6.7%. Okay.
I have a clarifying question, please, Madam Chair.
Yep.
It is not the role of the Board of Education to decipher which things are cut and which things are, stay in the budget. It is our role and responsibilities to adopt a budget, and it is the role and responsibilities of the superintendent to use those funds in the best way he or she deems. So just confirming that tonight, I don't want to get into the, well, let's cut this, well, I agree, we'll cut this. This needs to be more of a straight dollar amount. We vote, we adopt, and then we give it to the superintendent with the intention that as things change, education, the students' day-to-day life in education is extremely fluid. She will use that money and those funds in the best way she sees possible. Is that accurate?
I would say.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Well, I mean, I don't know how you all feel, but clearly the 50% reduction, which was one of the exercise we asked her to do, would cut in,
Can people hear you? Okay.
I don't know,
I don't know. Okay.
would cut in probably more than we feel our system could bear. So I'm going to request that we take out, obviously, the 50% reduction and not talk about it anymore. Because now we see what a 50% reduction would look like and how it would impact.
I think one of the backbone pieces of this community is our teachers in those rooms. That's where the rubber meets the road. 50% reduction would impact our instructional delivery for kids, and I think that would be detrimental to our school system. So I would concur.
Agreed. All right, one page done.
I would also argue a 30% reduction would also be painful. And the gains made, because we are talking about people, staffing. And I think that's very serious. That's heavy.
Julie, can we go back to your alternate reduction scenario? Because I know if you look at the 30% reduction in the ask, you had, wait, was it on that page? No, it was on the 50% actually reduction, where you had said that two coaches, you and I discussed this a little bit, two coaches replacing with one curriculum admin. Is that something that would fit into the $300,000 scenario page?
Instead of something else? I'm not sure I understand the question exactly.
Yeah, instead of something else in the instructional staff. I mean, understanding what Allison said, that we're not supposed to get into the weeds of what you would
Yeah.
actually do, but
And I may have missed the first half of that. You're asking me about the coaches, but going back to which other scenario were you looking at?
your alternate reduction scenario, the 300,000.
So are you asking, could we ask if we were to add the two coaches in?
And make that number bigger then, so it would be
No,
more than
it
300?
was- nope,
That's
it-
what I'm not understanding.
Right.
Placing, moving those into where it doesn't affect some of the instructional staff that would be coming out of that.
Like the para, the interventionist, the SLPA. I would say to you that it's not outside the realm of possibility, and I would absolutely consider that when I get a number and go back and try and figure this out.
Julie, excuse me, when you say a reduction of 300,000, you crossed out the SSO, so there's a I know, never mind the weeds, but there is a fiscal chance for SSOs in the
Yes.
scenario of 300,000.
In both
Yes.
schools?
Yes. And these were calculated for SSOs, just for clarification, because given the direction from you all a couple of months back, we have posted the positions and interviewed, and there are no ASO applicants. There was one, and when we contacted him for an interview, he had already taken a position. So I think at the Gilbert School, they've had that position all along. They called it a greeter. We are using the same job description, ASO or SSO, but this would be essentially more on the greeter side of things in terms of having someone who's monitoring the doors out front. Same job description, but, so this, yes, puts back the possibility if this budget went through with no more than the 300,000, it's not impossible to think that we could still do the SSOs.
And part of that discussion between ASOs, SSOs, and SROs, right, was understanding that that the town would be hiring the police, the extra police. He would have to go through, I think, a year of training in order to become an SRO. And so it seemed more expedient that we get, although the desire was to have an SRO because of all of the reasons that Officer Hubbard gave us in terms of community relations, the ability to build relationships with these kids. all those things, right? But there was also a time frame involved. We've also discussed, just so parents know, is, you know, when Hinsdale was renovated, a lot of the hardening was able to be done because the money was there. It was a new building, and we've been looking and talking about Pearson and the ability of hardening that site, right? If this has to be a multi-step process. So those are a lot of the things we've been discussing in our board meetings.
Any clarification? Further discussion? Okay, hearing none, I would make a motion to reduce the Winchester Board of Education budget by $300,000 per Julie's plan up there on the board. Reducing the ask to $1,451,800.
Nora, I don't think that's right.
No?
I see 1,494,399 as the increase.
1,494.
The increase before any deductions was 1,794,400.
Okay, 1,794,700.
400. Nancy, you're checking me, right?
Yes, I am.
So less a 300 reduction, I believe it would be an increase of 1,494,399, which is 6.66% increase.
Yes.
6.66. I think it
I think
it
that
needs to
really.
be. I think it needs to be 6.65 or 6.67.
No, maybe it's apt.
Yeah.
And
Play with
once
fire, Julie.
you have an approved plan, I will do it back the other direction so that you can make a motion to approve a budget in an amount.
Right, actual
But
number.
we'll let you get there first.
Okay, so the motion to cut the existing at 300,000.
Can I make a friendly amendment, or do we have to wait for it to go to a full motion?
Go to a full motion. I mean, it could die without a second motion.
I'll second that motion.
Chandra? Okay, discussion.
I'd like to offer a friendly amendment and say, amend the motion to a reduction of 250,000. I think it would give the superintendent a little bit of, very little wiggle room, but a little bit of flexibility in order to look at her staffing and provide the students with similar experiences.
I would accept that friendly amendment.
Thank you.
So the motion on the floor is to reduce the budget proposal to 250,000. First by me, seconded by Sandra. Any further discussion?
Nothing?
Okay. Want me to wait for the math?
No, I'm just getting ready in case it passes. You
Okay,
keep doing you, you're doing great.
okay.
You're doing good.
Okay, no more discussion? All in favor? Raise your hand. Okay, that is unanimous. Thank you, everyone. 9-0. Motion carries.
Do you want to make a motion to then, what was the language I wanted, to approve a Board of Education budget in the amount of?
That's right. We had to figure that amount.
I've got it,
Okay,
23,993,865.
okay. I'll make the motion to approve the Board of Education Winchester budget for fiscal year 2026 to $23,993,865. Do I have a second?
Second.
Kurt? All in favor? Unanimous. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Item,
Happy we don't need another workshop.
item number 6 on the agenda is public comment. Anyone wishing to speak? If you wouldn't mind, thank you.
I just wanted to quickly touch base on Casey Demara's letter to the
Can,
board.
can you bring that microphone a little
Oh, yes,
closer?
sorry.
Thank
Can
you.
hear me now? Thank you. I just wanted to speak on the pre-K 4 letter that was submitted, right? As a parent in the school system, I volunteered for classroom visits, birthday parties, field trips, and I've seen firsthand the limited staffing that they have, the limited resources they have for the children, and the things that they do to go above and beyond. I'm also a mom of a student with an IEP who has frequent visits with a speech pathologist, and I have to say that, you know, it is concerning to see cuts made to positions that are exceptionally important, and especially with our youngest age groups. So it's different to wrangle 20 12-year-olds versus 23 to 4-year-olds. You need all hands on deck. So I strongly implore the board to really take into consideration what they are asking for you as pre-K 4 educators. They are like the parents that we aren't, right? When we're not there, they treat your children like they're your own, and if they're asking for resources, we should listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
I'd just like to take this opportunity to say thank you to the board members for your time, your commitment, your careful consideration, and spending so much time just doing the best you can to be supportive of both the taxpayers and our students and our school community. You've supported me, you support our teachers, you're here because you care for students, and I just want to say thank you for your careful consideration.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Again, I echo the thank you for approving a budget. I'm sure that Paul Harrington's going to be very excited to know that there's a number here on the 5th of March. I would like to just reiterate the fact that I think we all know that the likelihood of the selectmen requesting a reduction in this budget is extremely high. And I would urge you to just keep in mind that all of the things that Julie was able to not cut tonight are very much still in play, and I would request that anybody on this board please be a true advocate for the budget, be the voice that we need you to be, because the cuts tonight are still painful, and we know that more are coming, so please be very mindful when you have those discussions of the voices you've heard in the room tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Please.
I also wanted to thank the board for listening to us, giving us the opportunity to speak at both last week's meeting and this week's meeting. Again, thank you for listening to us, and I vow as a parent to do all that I can to garner community support for the budget that you are putting forward. Again, thank you, and I promise to support this as long as I have to. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Jonathan. 7:07.
Second, Allison.
Thank you, Allison. All in favor? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.